Hi, my name is Darren Breathnach and I'm the clinical pharmacist with Pharmacy First Plus and the health management specialist here in SBGi Cork City. And today we're going to talk about nutrition and cancer, and specifically breast cancer, seen as this Breast Cancer Awareness Week here in SBGi Cork City. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the pro-cancer environment. What the pro-cancer environment is, it's when specific things in our environment, including our diet, hormones and toxins, have an effect on our body that actually accelerates and promotes the growth of cancerous cells. Every day we're producing substances in our body that are pro-cancerous. For example, the act of breathing produces free radicals, and they actually attack our DNA. And the DNA in every cell in our body is constant, it's the same, it's the blueprint for our body's makeup. However, in that individual cell, or the environment that that cell is induced in will actually decide whether it's pro-cancerous or anti-cancerous. And certain things like the environment, for example, will induce certain cancers. And when we take Cork City, for example, you have a higher incidence of all types of diseases, not just cancer, but bowel cancer, cystic fibrosis, etc. They have a higher incidence in Cork City than other parts of Ireland and the world, and that's because of the environment of Cork City. You also take stuff like toxins from the environment. Industrial towns can have a higher incidence of lung cancer, for example, because of toxins and pollutants in the air. But what we can do to prevent these toxins actually exerting their full effects pro-cancerously, we can introduce stuff like antioxidants from our diet that actually prevent the damage that these free radicals do. And what free radicals do is they go in and they attack our DNA and they actually switch pro-cancer genes on, so you produce cancerous proteins that don't fold properly and end up producing an abnormal cell that reproduces, grows and doesn't know when to die. And that's how an awful lot of cancers are formed. So the pro-cancer environment is implicated in malnutrition and hormones as well. When you talk about breast cancer and we talk about Angelina Jolie, for example, and the BRCA gene, and it's been well documented she's had a double mastectomy because she had this gene that predisposed her to breast cancer. And the BRCA gene gets activated in certain instances, so a virus or an illness, for example, can actually activate the BRCA gene and produce this cancerous cell. And in those situations, there's not much you can do, but also malnutrition and poor nutrition can actually influence the BRCA gene and turn it on. So there's a reason why people with the BRCA gene don't get breast cancer, because they don't promote this pro-cancer environment. So the BRCA gene, or the breast cancer promoting gene, is actually useless in that environment. And then we could turn that around into actually preventing cancer. There are a whole variety of things that influence our DNA to decide whether a cell is cancerous, pro-cancerous or anti-cancerous. We take sulforaphane that's in broccoli, for example. It switches on anti-cancer genes, so it makes the cell produce proteins that tell the cell when it should die so it doesn't live too long, become cancerous, and send out signals that it cause secondary cancers as well. So if you treat broccoli properly, you can actually induce anti-cancer genes in these cells. So for example, this element in broccoli that is anti-cancerous, if you boil broccoli, you'll absolutely obliterate it. So boiled broccoli that's overcooked, you don't get that benefit from your broccoli, along with a whole load of other vitamins and antioxidants that support this element of broccoli that is so unique to broccoli with this particular chemical. But there's a whole range of vegetables and fruits that have certain little chemicals that will actually influence our cells and make them anti-cancerous. So treating our food and treating our nutrition, not just making sure we eat the right things, but we treat them the right way. Steaming broccoli retains all that nutrition, and rather than putting it in a pot of boiling water, just putting it in a little canister that will absorb the steam and help cook it lightly, as opposed to butchering it like we do in Ireland quite often with our broccoli, will help retain that anti-cancerous effects of broccoli. That's just one example. There are a whole myriad of others. And when we talk to nutrition with cancer, because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Week, my role in the pharmacy, I come across a lot of people that are going through chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is an awful thing to go through when you consider what it does to the body. And at times like this, nutrition is more important than ever. The only problem is chemotherapy induces loss of appetite, induces vomiting, etc. So it's very, very important to marry nutrition with the chemotherapy. And we take treating cancer with nutrition alongside the medicines. An awful lot of the chemotherapy medicines give you a metallic taste in your mouth. So it's very important that because you can't stomach it, because you're vomiting, you have a metallic taste in your mouth. Simple tips are so vital to these people that are in vulnerable states. When we take nutrition with cancer, eating with a plastic fork instead of a metal fork will help dull down that metallic taste element of it. And then you induce foods, small foods with high calories for people with cancer will give them the energy their body needs. They need calories for a whole different reason than someone without cancer are not going through chemotherapy. Because when you go through chemotherapy, the next 7 days your blood count falls, and the 7 days after that is called a low point. And then the next 7 days are so vital, because what you need to do in those 7 days is get your blood count back up so you can get another round of treatment to help you overcome this cancer. Without proper nutrition, it makes the body very hard to regenerate blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, to help get good solid blood cells in place so that your body can actually take the chemotherapy again. That's why they do a blood test before the next round of chemo, to see if your body is able to cope with it. And the other thing about chemotherapy and making foods more palatable is it's very important. A very good friend of mine underwent chemo recently, and he told me about the nice sweet foods that he was able to take on as opposed to the other stuff. And there are a whole myriad of ways around this. For those people that have to go through chemotherapy, we can use stuff like hand blenders to improve the texture of food. And by blending in food in the chemotherapy setting, it actually makes the texture of the food a lot more palatable for that person, easier to eat. And there are other things you can do, like just adding dabs of sweetness to that food. As a nutrition therapist, sometimes it's not the right thing to do to actually promote sweetness in foods and promote that kind of high calorie and small volume eating. But in certain instances, for example, nutrition and cancer, you want high calories and small amounts of good sweet foods that the person will eat simply to give them the energy to get back up for another round of chemotherapy and help them keep fighting, as opposed to the healthy individual where we need a good balanced diet. So that's the 3 different areas that nutrition influences cancer. It plays a role in preventing the precancerous environment. It plays a role in preventing DNA damage that results in cancerous cells proliferating. But it also plays a role in nutrition with cancer, and it plays a vital role. And for those people going through chemotherapy, it's very important that not only do they eat foods that are not processed and that are good for them, but to eat those foods in a context that they'll get the most out of them. So like nice steamed food, and rather than juicing food like that, which takes all the goodness out of them, they blend them so they're getting the best that they can out of that food in as small a volume as possible to help them get through. So I hope you got a lot from the talk today, and as always, call into us on Monday evening or Friday morning if you want to find out more about nutrition in any form, especially nutrition with cancer. Thank you very much.